Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, welcome in everyone to today's board meeting. First item on the agenda, number 1, is approval of the agenda. I'll move it.
I'll second.
Motion by Bittinger, second by Dietrich. Any discussions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Items 2 through 6 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items passed unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Number 2 is approval of the minutes of the December 31st, 2024 meeting, and also approval of the minutes of the January 2nd, 2025 meeting. Number 3 is approval of claims. Number 4 is by Deputy Commissioner of Elections Steve Hoffmeyer. This is to receive the appointment of Randy Hunt as a Garrettson's Drainage District and to fill the vacancy left when Lee Haveman resigned. Number 5, from Human Resource, Melissa Thomas, approval of memorandum of personal transactions, authorization to initiate the hiring process, approval of request to deauthorize county position, and their authorization of bookkeeper, clerk 3 in the treasurer's office to facilitate a position name change. And lastly, number 6, from Planning and Zoning, Dan Priestley, approval of resolution thanking Barbara Parker for her years of service on the Zoning Commission, and approval of the construction evaluation resolution relating to construction permits for large animal confinement operations. All right, any discussions on that? All right, I'll move it.
Second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. All right, on to the regular agenda. Number 7 from Lila Mace House, Shirley Finneran. Come on up. And today is the approval and presentation of the proclamation for National Human Trafficking Prevention Month.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
My name is Sister Shirley Finner, and I'm founder of Lila Mays House. And thank you for welcoming me to read the proclamation, which you've already signed for Woodbury County. And when I'm finished, I'd be happy to answer any question about human trafficking or Lila Mays House. So Woodbury County Proclamation. Whereas the United States was founded upon the principle that all people are created with the inalienable right to freedom, and added the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, making slavery illegal, and whereas slavery within the United States today is most often found in the form of forced labor and sex trafficking, which weakens our social fabric, increases violence and organized crime, and debases our humanity. And whereas the problem is found even within our community. And whereas every business, community organization, faith community, family, and individuals can make a difference by choosing products that are not made by forced labor, by working to protect our young people from sexual exploitation, by addressing the problems of internet sex trafficking and pornography, and by becoming more aware of the problem and possible solutions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors do hereby proclaim the month of January 2025 as National Human Trafficking Prevention Month in Woodbury County, Iowa, and urge all citizens to become more familiar with the problem to work toward solutions. Signed by all of you and our auditor. Thank you. Any questions about Lila Mays House or human trafficking?
How long has Lila Mace House been open and operating?
So we opened in 2021, and our capacity is 5 women, which we are full right now. I was just up there all day. And it's we have a home, and women can stay there for up to 2 years usually. And they have a lot of trauma issues, and Sex trafficking is alive and well in our community, unfortunately. Most of the women that we have at Lila Mae's house were not trafficked actively in Sioux City. When they came to Lila Mae's house, it's too dangerous for them to be trafficked here and have their trafficker in Sioux City. But most of our women were trafficked in Iowa at some point. And we take women 18 and over. And we have 24-hour coverage, which is very expensive.
Right.
So,
Well, thank you for coming today and presenting that.
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for all that you do.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a lot of it's hard work. It's hard work. They have trauma that stays with them a lifetime. So, but we're happy we're able to do it in Sioux City.
Right.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Shirley, very much. Number 8 on the agenda for UMB Bank, Nate Summers. come
Mr.
on.
Chair?
Yes.
I believe we need a motion and a second to.
Oh, yes, thank you.
I'll move approval.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Motion by Nelson,
I'll second.
second by Dietrich. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Now, number 8, thank you, Otter, thank you. From UMB Bank, Nate Summers with a financial update and debt overview.
Good evening. I've got some presentation material here. Do you need to approve it before I pass it out?
Yes, is it different from what was in the backup?
It should be what's in the packet.
Michelle, should we receive that?
Do you know if this is exactly what was published in the backup materials? Okay, I would recommend receiving that.
Okay.
I'll move to receive. I'll second.
All right. Motion received by Nelson, second by Dietrich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay. Thanks, sir. Yep.
All right, thanks for that. Makes it a little bit easier to walk through the material sometimes, so. Nate Summers with UMB Financial Services. I was extensively involved with the Law Enforcement Center project financing, as well as some secondary roads financing a few years back. See some familiar faces and some new faces, so just as an overview, that's generally speaking what we do is assist counties with capital project financing. Especially with the unfortunate passing of Dennis Butler, just wanted to touch base with the county again and give you an overview of what the county has outstanding for debt, and just provide some information on our services so that we can be helpful in filling some of the gaps that may exist with this passing. So the first page here, I'll start with this packet that says valuation trend across the top. Page 1 of 6 just shows the county's historic valuation growth over the past 5 years. You've experienced some good growth on the actual valuation side of things, which is what the county would use to calculate your debt capacity or your debt limit. And then the taxable valuation on the right-hand side has also grown significantly over the years. And that's the metric that we use to calculate the debt service levy. If you flip the page to page 2, apologies for the small print, but this shows the principal payments only on all of the county's outstanding debt. Going back to 2017, a couple of series of capital loan notes, one capital loan note in 2019, which matured in June of 2024. Capital loan note in 2020, one in 2021, and then the Urban Renewal Series 2021. That's the secondary roads project that we financed. There's three other capital loan notes that are fairly short that the county has used for some capital projects throughout the years. And then the two Law Enforcement Center series financing the jail project that we worked on. That's what the county has outstanding. Debt capacity utilized, you're currently at 11%. You've got $492 million of outstanding capacity remaining. You're never going to touch that, obviously, but with the amount of valuation the county has, that's what your debt capacity is. If you flip to the next page, page 3 of 6 shows principal and interest payments for all of those same series of debt. And then over on the right-hand side, you can see what the debt service levy would be calculated at. And then that over on the right-hand side, there's those 3 gray columns. That middle one shows the law enforcement center special levy that's assessed for those lease payments, and that's separated out so you can see the impact there. I think when both series were issued, I think we were around 85 cents or something like that, and it's dropped down to 58 cents already with the valuation growth. So good to see that as well. If you flip to pages 4 and 5 actually are just showing the work on what your interest rates are at. With interest rates being what they are now, none of that's really up for any refinancing potential. That's something that we like to take a look at for you. So you're out in front of things there. Already have good low interest rates on all of that. Page 5 shows the interest payments only, which can be helpful when it comes to budget time. And then the last page shows the abatements, and that's just the TIF, as well as the law enforcement center lease payments that are being abated by those lease payments. That's the county currently has outstanding. Are there any questions or comments?
So just on page 2 to review, you said we're only using 11% of our debt capitalization. Just
Of your
capacity,
debt capacity, or your debt limit,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Which a lot of cities can have some issues with bumping up against their debt limit because they have a lot less valuation. And so their debt capacity is lower. They do a lot more streets and things like that they would leverage general obligation bonds for. At the county level, you're not accessing debt that often and that frequently to the extent that cities would. So most counties are not even anywhere near their statutory debt limit. Okay. The other thing I wanted to just provide you with some information about our services. There's just some information on the left-hand side. I won't go through any of that. You can read that on your own time. On the right-hand side, I believe it's the next agenda item. I do have an engagement letter just for the county. I know that when Dennis was working on capital projects, the county was doing notes through banks once a year or so, about 5 years out. And I think that's something that we could help the county with. I think we'd be able to utilize the capital markets to potentially get the best possible interest rates for the county. And then we would also provide the services of helping structure the debt, map out a plan for your capital projects and things of that nature. So if that's of interest, that is also available. And that would only really come into play as far as fees go when the county needs to access debt or issue bonds.
So I think, because in the engagement letter, it's a $15,000 fee.
Right. Yep.
So you're saying only when we need
That's only when
that.
you issue debt.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
And how long is that, if signing that engagement letter, how long does that stand?
It's evergreen, so
Okay.
it can just be outstanding until the
Okay.
next time you issue debt.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Any discussion from the board on this? Or questions? How long have you, Ms. Summers, how long have you worked with the county and with Dennis? How many years?
Yeah, the county didn't really use the capital markets a whole lot
Sure.
until the law enforcement center
Okay.
project came into play. So that's when we became involved with the county. Before that, I don't believe the county previously used a service like ours, the municipal advisor service.
Okay.
So that would have been 2020, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And we do, our firm does also, when the county issued the bonds, there are covenants that the county issued or entered into with the investors who purchased the bonds. And so the county has to provide an annual filing to investors every year. We do that filing for the county each year. So that's something that we've had an ongoing relationship since then, making those filings.
All right. All right. All right, hearing, so A, that was information. B was the approval of engagement letter for UMB to serve as the county's municipal advisor. That's for action, so is there a motion to approve that engagement letter?
I'll move it. I'll second that.
All right, motion by Ung, seconded by Carper. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. My business card's in there. If any of you have individual questions, feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, item number 9 from Siouxland District Health, Director Kevin Grime, with the approval of fiscal year 24 CIP project for sidewalk replacement at 1014 Nebraska Street.
All right, thank you. Kevin Green, Director at Siouxland District Health Department. What I have before you is the bid. It was actually from the fiscal year 24 capital improvement project listing that had been approved. And so we are ready to move forward with that project at this point in time. Our original estimates when we proposed it into the CIP process was about $55,000. We did find a new contractor that's out there that our new building services operation gentleman has worked with in previous positions. And it was a pretty impressive when they submitted this bid with options. And so basically, it is coming in at $25,545 as a recommendation. Changes that you'll see from current structure to this is the sidewalk coming down the upper part of the hill from 11th Street is 5 foot wide, and then it widens to 9 foot wide right at the building. That has continually created some challenges on occasion with maintenance of the caulking and everything else because the water runs right into that crack that's in there. So what this proposal involves is expanding basically a 4 foot wide grass berm between the building and the edge of the sidewalk. We'll still maintain 5 feet of travel pattern, but then that berm will be able to absorb some of the water to prevent less potentially of coming into the building. So that's the proposal, and what I was instructed to do was come to you for approval of this, and once approved, then we'll look at work with the contractor to do installation when the weather lets us this spring.
Well, that's great to hear that it came in under budget, but go ahead.
Yeah. I was just say, appreciate your work on this, and I would move it.
Okay, I'd second it. Motion by Nelson, second by Bittinger. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, passes 5-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Number 10, from Building Services, Kenny Smits, approval of Cone 3-year LEC elevator contract.
This is a contract with Kone Elevator Company requested by Building Services to provide preventive maintenance and service repair for the 6 elevators at the new law enforcement center. This would come out of the LEC 9113 annual operating budget account, which has been budgeted for. We negotiated a 3-year term, a total of $103,086 for all 6 elevators. We did change some, we were allowed to change some language in the contract with Kone. The county attorney's office worked with me on that. Although we didn't make a lot of changes, they elevator companies typically throw out a boilerplate contract, and they're very resistive to change it. But we did get some changes that we thought were necessary, and they worked well with us with that. And so we'd like to move forward with this 3-year contract.
Okay.
I'll move it.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Nelson, second by Carber. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. On to number 11, from Secondary Roads, Laura Receivers. A is approval of farm rental contract for the Breezy Farm near Correctionville.
Hello. So I was going to present to you, and I do have the farm lease cash rent agreement that we've done previous years. But with that, our new tenant brought to me a question of the sentence in here that says, tenant shall not remove from the real estate nor burn any straw, stalks, stubble, or similar plant materials, all of which are recognized as property of the landlord. I believe that's a typical statement put in a farm lease cash rent agreements, but our tenant believes that in previous, maybe this year or in 2024, that corn stubble was probably removed from the property. And so he assumed when he was doing his bid, because we don't exactly present the rental agreement to them in the bidding process, that it was allowed to remove that, even though he had seen previously that it was in the contract to not be removed. So I would ask for a little discussion here on how we would like to handle this. Do we want to accept his bid and see if he would like to keep that number available? He has even suggested that, maybe taking less of, he would have probably offered a little less had he known that he could not remove that material. Or, I guess, asking anyone for any suggestions on how we should handle this. I'm even willing to take it back out to bid and then making sure all bidders understand that that is exactly what we expect. There is a cost associated with removing that material and the nutrients we lose on that soil. So, but we have some farmers up here that probably know a lot more about that than I do, so.
Yeah, so Kyle contacted me. It had been in the lease for years that you could not remove the organic matter after harvest. And Kyle had bid in the past, was not currently farming it, but had noticed that the current tenant had made corn stalk bales this past year, which per our lease does not allow that. So he called me and asked if things had changed with the lease because he was going to be submitting a bid for that farm. I contacted Mark Nera, and Mark said, oh yeah, you can do that. Well, Mark had not checked the lease closely, and so Kyle had to put his bid in on some just wrong information. And so I think it would like to retain that, Stover, and I think he asked it if we could reduce his bid. Was it $25 an acre? It's a $375, correct, would be the new amount. I think that that's more than reasonable. Again, it was an error on mine and Mark Nera's behalf. He asked for the information, we just provided him wrong information. So I think that he's being more than fair countering, and I think it would be acceptable for us to accept that, but I'm open to discussion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We have a resolution on the table, so let's pursue it.
Okay.
I don't know, I guess my questions were like, if he would bale it, is he gonna fertilize accordingly, for the nutrients and everything like that? I mean, I don't know, do we know if the last person did that? But if it's already in the bid, that is not supposed to be, and without having to open it back up, is that bid still higher than what the bids were opened?
Yeah, yeah. I think the next low bid was 300. Or the second highest bid was 300.
That sounds.
$315, actually.
Yeah, so he's still $60 more, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I would move approval of the, we'll call it an amended farm rental contract to, for the Breezy Farm to Kyle Schneckloff in the amount of $375.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Nelson, second by Diedrich. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Passes 5-0. Item B is approval of resolution establishing speed limits on Elk Creek Road.
Yeah, so this is Elk Creek Road past the new roundabout, and part of that project was paving some more road. We have obviously seen development out that way, and so it would be good to post a speed limit. The speed limit is done and suggested by putting out speed detection out there and seeing what typical traffic was driving. And so over the course of quite a few days, weeks, month, we have seen an average, traffic of the 85th percentile is going 32.61 miles per hour eastbound. And westbound, 85th percentile was going 35 miles per hour. So as I provided in the backup information was a map of where we would locate, 35 miles an hour right outside of the roundabout, and then further out 40, increasing it to a 45 mile an hour speed limit. I I've driven it. I don't know if you guys have been out there lately, but it definitely feels like a very appropriate. I even drive that probably a little bit slower, but maybe I notice more things. But I think for the safety of the traveling public, this would be a great speed limit to post out there. And I don't believe that you're going to hear people say that they are now required to slow down. I think that this is typically what people are driving.
I'd move it.
I'll second. All right, motion by Nelson, second by Dietrich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Laura. Sign that one. Yeah. All right, moving on to number 12 from Planning and Zoning, Daniel Priestley. A is approval of appointment of Steve Corey to Woodbury County Zoning Commission for a 5-year term.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Daniel Priestley, Zoning Coordinator. Kind of for the good of the public, I want to mention that the Zoning Commission and the Board of Adjustment definitely play a consequential role in making recommendations and decisions either to the board or the Zoning Commission to the Board of Adjustment on many situations that involve landowner rights as far as land use, and there's a lot of times balances that have to be determined and made between landowners' rights and development projects, and we've seen a whole host of issues the last several years across the board, and we have a lot of dedicated members that put a lot into these positions and these jobs, and we had this application process open between October and up through December, and we ended up with an applicant, one each for the Zoning Commission and for the Board of Adjustment. Recruitment, it can definitely be difficult in these positions, and the legislature at the state level did remove the gender balance in the last session, which makes it a bit more flexible for us in the recruitment process. But one of the things I do want to mention is the citizens that volunteer for these roles, they must reside in the unincorporated areas of Woodbury County as the zoning ordinance governs those respective areas. So the intent is that the neighbors are able to kind of focus in, somebody that lives right from that area, to be able to kind of evaluate these type of issues. So that's just something that kind of is very predominant feeling across the board in zoning. And with just one candidate, as you know, in years past, we've had folks basically come to the podium and interview, and you've ultimately made a selection. But as the route of having, of course, Steve for Zoning Commission apply, we put it up on the agenda to ask for the approval of Steve to be a zoning commissioner. And he is here tonight.
All right. Yeah, come on up if there's anything you'd like to say, Steve, or anything you introduce yourself, or I know some of us know you, yeah, so.
I was made aware of the open position. I have been involved, as you know, with you folks on some of the things that have taken place over the last year and a half or whatnot here in the county regarding some of the different things, big projects that were being proposed, and I take a lot of interest in what's happening, here in our county. I think and feel that all politics is incredibly local, and that it's kind of our civic responsibility as citizens of a constitutional republic to serve, any way we possibly can, as like you all are. And I take interest in how our county is going to continue to flourish and grow for the betterment of all the citizens in our county, especially, in the rural areas and whatnot, where this is going to be impactful. So I put in the application. Dan reached out to me last week. We had a real nice conversation. I think we're going to, work really, really well together. And I look forward to learning as a part of the commission as well. I think I can add some good insights to it, well-balanced insights. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. So I appreciate your consideration.
Any questions? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, need a motion to approve?
I'd move approval of appointing Steve Corey to the Woodbury County Zoning Commission.
Second.
All right, motion by Nelson, second by Ung. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations. Item B is approval of appointment of Larry Philby to the Woodbury County Board of Adjustment for a 5-year term. Anything else, Daniel?
I don't have anything else to add, but Larry is here with us tonight. So-
You want to say anything, Larry, or are you good?
You know what, I won't outdo Steve, but, I guess being retired, I do have the time to give to the board. And living out there in the county, and all of you know that over the past few years, I've been up here quite a few times. So I have a love for the countryside. I have a very deep interest in the government. And if I have an opportunity to give back, I surely will. I enjoy everything that you guys do. I appreciate what you do, and if I can be of service to you, I most definitely will be. So, any questions?
No questions from me, but I just want to thank both of you for being willing to do this. We, as a board, depend upon your judgment, and it's, you know, when there's an ordinance change, it's a multi-step process, and you put a lot of time into it, and don't want that to be lost on anyone, especially the public, so thank you.
Yeah, and it's nice that we've got 2 applicants that have been involved, and Steve said it too, in other areas of county government too, and that's wonderful, because you've interacted with a lot of the people that are here, and that goes a long way. So we'd like to thank you both, and I don't know how much they told you this job pays, you know, but appreciate putting your application.
I was told the salary was quite substantial.
It's-
All right, well, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you. All right.
I'd move approval of Larry Philby to the Woodbury County Board of Adjustment.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Nelson, seconded by Dietrich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Item 13 is report on committee meetings. Anybody has any?
I had one this morning, Woodbury County Soil Water Conservation Board. It was an organizational meeting as well as a regular monthly meeting. Jason Yaki from Climbing Hill was elected as chairman. He was serving that capacity last year. And Gary Walders is our secretary. So both of those great guys talked about, one of their big jobs every year is either installing water mitigation structures paid for by taxpayers and then maintaining them, which is a big part of it too. And they just hired a new watershed tech that's been a tough position to keep employed there because the pay isn't a lot, but it's a lot of physical labor and it's kind of you got to be your own boss. And so they hired someone very good, but they had to pay up. And so there's going to be a slight increase on their budget ask of us. I think the board had been contributing about $39,000 out of local option. I think their request this year is going to be about $50,000. And that just, they went months and months there where they couldn't even get an applicant and had to start to pay up, which we're seeing that across the country. So, but they've got a good team there. They got a good board. So anybody needs anything, that it's a great group to reach out to. And I guess that's all I have for committee reports. So,
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
There will be an LEC meeting Tuesday next week. We're thinking 2:00 unless we have a budget meeting or anything next week.
No.
Okay, and then we'll just communicate if we want to start a budget hearing early, if it falls in,
Right.
we'll move around and do something to
Yep.
facilitate that.
Yeah. Next week, I'll have the updated list of assignments, committee assignments to us for the board for approval for next week. Just update with that. All right. Number 14, any citizen concerns?
Steve Corey, Salix, Iowa, 1757 290th Street. I just wanted to speak in support of Lila May House and the human trafficking issue that she brought to the table today, and I appreciate what you guys have done. I'm just going to bring some information to you to kind of further on the human trafficking issue. I'm involved with a team of people here in the state of Iowa. We're bringing awareness to, our goal is to every community in the state of Iowa. Right now, one of my team members has already, we bought the rights to a documentary film called Grid Shock. If you haven't heard of it, it's a documentary film that was directed and produced right here in the state of Iowa by an Iowa State grad. It involves 3 women who were trafficked right here in Iowa. One of them was trafficked out of Morningside University. The film is 55 minutes long. We bought the rights to it so we could take it to the public. You can go online, you can rent it for $10. It's incredibly hard to watch. If you watch the movie that was out just recently, that touches on human trafficking, but it was taking place in another country. This takes place right here in our own state, in our own backyard. Iowa is number 6 in the country per capita in human trafficking. I'm not talking about large-scale mass human trafficking, the van pulls up, kidnaps the children off the street. I'm talking about happening right here in our own communities, in our own backyards, and in many cases, the perps are people we actually know. It is a tremendous problem. We've got a state representative who, in his freshman year, he's a retired Marine, and in his freshman year, he was able to get our laws passed, new laws strengthened and hardened in the state of Iowa. We went from Class C and D felonies to Class A and B now. Last year, he was able to get an anti-grooming legislation passed. What he's going to be working on, and we're all going to be looking for support when they go to session on trying to get the funding we need in the state for a multi-jurisdictional, multi-agency law enforcement task force. We have none here. So now we've got the laws in place in the state of Iowa, but we don't have the law enforcement dedicated and devoted to human trafficking. So I want to make you aware and the public aware that when we go to session, we're going to need as much support. We're going to need to be very vocal with our representatives down in the State House and in the Senate, both chambers, to try to find a way to come up with the funding to create this agency so that we can now actually go after these people, both the traffickers and the perps, as we try to refer to the people, the customers, to try and make it really, really difficult here in the state of Iowa to do this kind of nasty criminal type of stuff to it's children, it's women primarily, and children. There's men involved as well. I would encourage all of you to watch the movie if you can. If there's anybody interested in, as an example, I presented the movie down at a church in Whiting earlier in the year, and the church raised $1,000 that day for the Lila May House. We've only got a handful of safe houses for women in the state. So we're underserving and, this particular issue that we have, and it's a huge one. So I just want to make you all aware of that. I appreciate your time.
If we could show that movie in churches, is there like a recommended age limit for this movie?
We would love to get it into schools. In fact, I believe we're going to be at Remsen St. Mary's coming up this month. I haven't heard if they've approved it yet, but that I was up in Sioux County with it earlier in the year as well. But at high school age, I think, is kind of where we draw the line on it, as far as how we recommend it. But we're willing to take it anywhere, to churches, community centers, anybody who, is open to it. The gal on our team, she's out of Algona area, and her goal, and we're doing this out of our own pocket, and her goal is to try to get to every community in the state. In 2024, I believe that she closed in on almost 100 presentations, along with the ones that I did over here on the western side of the state. And we've learned a lot. We've had a lot of victims that have come forward, as they hear about what we've been doing, telling their stories, and it's truly unbelievable. Just to give you an idea, the women that were the victims in this documentary film talk about being raped 30 to 50 times a night, if you can imagine that. So, and it's real, and it's happening, like I said, right here in our own communities. We think it's somewhere else. It's not. Any other questions I can help? We have to answer.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you, Steve. Any other citizen concerns? Okay. All right, board concerns? Anything?
I talked with Patrick from V&K yesterday about the Salix Drainage District, and I know that Mayor Kevin Elson was here last week and talked to you earlier today. He called me as well. He's writing the resolution that, you plan on having on the
Yeah.
agenda next week. So the Board of Supervisors, and maybe for Dave and Kent, I don't know how soon you guys were following along, because this was kind of a year ago or a little over a year ago, but Salix had an agreement to pump water into the Farmers Drainage District. They needed to figure out what the value of that was worth. Salix thought it was gonna be more expensive than just to create their own district, so they went that route. Well, then that created massive consternation amongst the people down there, so then it took a long time for them to finally figure out what they wanted to do, and they are creating a drainage district that has been created for the city to allow them to shed their water downstream so that the town doesn't flood when there's big rainfall events or what have you. And so when drainage districts are created, they have to be run by somebody. A lot of times they're run by a trusteeship, a three-member board. But the county there's kind of three options right now. We can run it, we can assign a trusteeship to run it, which there'd be an election, and then, or we can hand it over to the city of Salix, because they're greater than 25% of that district. Actually, they're about 71%. And so we had one public comment, because there are three landowners, part of this district, that are not within the city limits of Salix, that asked about, well, what about us, as far as taxation without representation, and what, so that's what I called Patrick and V&K about yesterday was, could we set up a trusteeship where one of those rural landowners could, serve on that board and have representation? The problem is that Iowa code says that you have to live within the drainage district in order to serve on a trusteeship, and those folks do not. So that's not a viable option either. I do not think that the county should run it. I think we just heard a little bit ago from someone that local is better, and this is gonna be their thing, that they're gonna be running this for their city, so I think that it would be much better for have them handle it. And the Salix City Council wants to take it on, so I think that they should run that. So, but I just wanted to kind of share some of those things with you guys that and I think Pat is planning on being here next week, I think, and can answer, more questions, but I didn't know that part of the code and how the trusteeship and that sort of thing worked, but hearing that, I think that it makes sense to have Salix run that. So we'll look forward for that next week on the agenda. And then the last thing I had, mostly for the public and those in the audience to think about, but the Sioux City Journal had an article, it was either Saturday or Sunday, about legislative priorities at the Capitol for 2025, and they interviewed Speaker of the House, Pat Grassley, and the Senate Majority Leader, I cannot remember his name, but anyway, they pretty much their entire priority is to lower property taxes. And I think that that is a very fruitful thing, and I think that's what all of us would like to do, is keep spending low, but I have a problem. There was a quote in there that counties should only be able to tax for essential services. And I think that should be up for the voters to decide. In Woodbury County, we have rural ambulance service, paramedic service 24/7. That's paid for by the taxpayers, because we have several communities that can't even furnish an ambulance driver anymore most days, let alone a paramedic. And that was something that the voters requested. We have an incredible park system and recreation system. That was something else that the voters wanted. And so I want all of you to be aware, and if you believe that we shouldn't have those things, that's totally fine too. But I would just ask that we talk with our legislators and legislators, and make sure that they're not trying to override our votes. I think we let the voters decide what they want. If they want to be taxed a lot, that's their decision. If they want to be taxed not a lot, that's their decision too. And it's our job to execute what it is that they want, not to supersede what we think they want. So just for what it's worth, you can find that article online. I believe it was either Saturday or, do you remember, Matthew? Did you see that one? Yeah, it was either Saturday or Sunday, but it's concerning. We also police the rural communities that don't have a police force, and that's something that the taxpayers, I think we can all agree that it's not an essential service, but we can all agree that our communities are better when they're safer. And so I've got some real concerns about what's happening in Des Moines and the adverse effects that it could have on us, but they may never see that. So just for what it's worth, keep that in mind and maybe make a phone call or two. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. All right. With that, we're adjourned.